All right. Oh, I added Jeff and he removed himself.
I removed at the same time. Morning.
What's up, man? How you doing?
It's good.
I want to pick a background for us.
That works.
I like that. Here's we're in church. Look at us.
Look at that. Are we on the front row?
Oh, we're like good Baptists. We're on the back row.
Everybody got an extra hour? Where's everyone this morning?
I don't know. Here's some people.
You got some people adding? I don't see anybody on the. Are they coming
Yeah,
in?
we've got some people coming in. They're coming
Oh.
in. I forget. Jimmy usually lets it, as he says, populate for a while. So they're see you let them do that, and then they're used to coming in late, just like Sunday school.
I know it.
Start later and later. People get used to it. You got to throw them a curveball every now and then.
What is it? On time is late? That's the way it goes?
Yeah, this is a Vince Lombardi. 15 minutes
Mhm.
early at some time.
Yeah.
Hey, look, the birthday girl.
Yeah. Hello, Susan. Brother Jim.
Hey, the Longhorns pulled it off, and that was a great win because it was against the 6 Oklahoma State. Although the
Yeah.
Big 12 is what it is, but the A&M stomped the Razorbacks, so there's that.
Look at that, y'all partnering.
Yeah.
Good stuff. You have a good Halloween on a Saturday night? That was kids do.
Yeah, we had some friends that have Dustin Molina had parties for the kids, so we took them out there and they played around and hit pinatas, and then I got back and watched the second half of the Aggies game. So it was a pretty good night overall. What about you? You guys have your usual hundreds and hundreds of people?
We didn't. We had a few, but it was there were times where 10, 15 minutes, no one there. But Evelyn passed out for us. She passed
Nice.
out candy, so it was good. So yeah, it was good.
That's awesome.
Put a fire in the fire pit, did a s'mores. Yeah, had it going on.
Saw Melinda said she usually gets y'all usually get like 500 to 600 people.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you can. I guess you've got a bunch of candy to eat through this holiday season.
No, it's going to the church this morning.
Oh, okay,
so,
gotcha.
Well, I've got a few select ones held back for emergencies here at the house, so it's good.
Oh yeah.
I think they're putting together some bags for maybe the kids because Trick or Trunk was canceled on Wednesday. So
yeah, Wednesday was like 40 degrees and raining. It was a pretty not a great day to have an outside event. Which that's been our luck the last like 2 or 3 years. The last Trick or Trunk I remember we were able to do was the one I remember Misty like went all out and had like hay bales and like she was just a scarecrow or something. But I want to say that was at least 3. We've had at least 2 Trick or Trunks rained out in a row.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, it is what it is.
I know.
Hey, Miss Cindy.
Good morning.
Yeah.
I know. It's good. Good night though. Good night.
Yeah.
Plus an extra hour of sleep. Can't beat that.
Yeah, I told the kids because they're coming with me to church this morning early. So I told them, hey, you wake up early, I'll get you donuts, blah, blah, blah. But so and I told them you have to be in bed, at this time. And I didn't tell them they got an extra hour. So
there you go.
And neither of them thought about it. Grant does have a regular watch. So he when I woke him up or whatever, he was like, didn't you want to be at the church at 7:30? And I was like, yeah. He was like, because it was like 6:45, and he was like, did you sleep in or something? I'm like, nope, it's daylight savings. You got an extra hour of sleep, buddy. He was like, oh man. I was like, yep. Sure enough. That's what happened to Jimmy. If you're wondering why Jimmy's not here, he has an old school alarm clock, one of the ones that you set and rings and you gotta hit it or throw it across the room. And I think he's still sleeping, so we'll have to wake him up.
Yeah. But hey, we'll just continue on.
Now, how reliant are we? I'm so dependent on my cell phone now that I don't even think about it. I just assume that it's going to work, that it's going to switch the hours, and the time automatically.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't even think about it last night. It just says it would do it. Now I have an old school alarm clock that's kind of across the room at the end of the bed. Not that I set it or anything. I just when I wake up, I just want to glance over there and see it. Because my big old phone, it lights up the room when you when you do anything else. So I like to see what time it is. So
I can show you a hack on how to actually make it darker at night. There's a thing through the accessibility that you can figure it out.
Okay, awesome.
Morning, Chad.
Morning, Chad.
So he posts. I know he posts on Facebook. So I guess we can go ahead and mention it. But brother Bobby Tanner and his wife Tammy both got diagnosed with COVID, and Bobby is currently in the hospital on a ventilator. So we just need to be in prayers for his family, specifically for him, because obviously that's not a fun situation. We've been in prayers with him for a while, but that's not. He's in a good hospital. He's in a good place, but no sound.
I can hear you.
Yeah. Can anybody else not hear us? It may be. Oh, there it goes.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Just turn on your speakers. You'll be all right. There's our friend, the Facebook user. We love that.
Yep.
There's Caleb. So yeah, we just need to be in prayers for Bobby and Tammy and their family, and we'll let them kind of update us, and we'll get stuff out to you as they want us to. But needless to say, let's just be in prayer for them. And obviously, there's a lot of people that are kind of in that same boat. As winter gets on and all those kinds of things, winter's never a good time for any kind of flu-like thing. So
no, but it was we'll continue to be in prayer. They know to reach out. The church is ready to assist however and whenever. So they certainly know that. So
yeah, they've been they told Jimmy, when they found out, and so we've been in contact with them ever since. So hello, Tanya. Tanya was up here this morning figuring out some fun technical StreamYard stuff. So
oh really?
So she helps run the laptop. So the camera right in the worship center, we have to log in anyway. There's a browser that we have to run the camera on to be able to connect it so that we can use it through StreamYard. Mm-hmm. Do you want to guess which browser we use that the camera has to use?
Like Firefox or something?
Windows Explorer.
Oh.
Which I didn't even know was still around, because they came out with Edge a long time ago, and like Windows Explorer is not even on computers. You have to go and like download it. But yeah, it works with Windows Explorer. And it's funny because I watched this thing on like internet browsers. Of course, Chrome's the biggest one, and you've got Safari with Apple and Firefox. But the reason that Explorer is still around is that there are lots of programs that the university and the government or military use. I guess the government, probably not the military, but the government use, that only work on Windows Explorer. So it won't be phased out for a long time. It's kind of like, on the nuclear silos and stuff, they're still running some stuff off like floppy disks.
Yeah.
Like it's just, they're using like DOS systems or whatever. So yeah, we're running our camera has to be run on Windows Explorer.
They're looking for the launch codes, and someone's trying to find the floppy.
Yeah. Hey, we got some antiquated. Well, I mean, I understand why, but I'm sure it was state of the art 30 years ago when they were put it in. But technology just goes so fast; it just upgrades. I mean, it's nowadays. You remember. So you do remember when like the little thumb drives, little hard, what do you call them? Thumb drives, what I call them. But you remember when they first came out, and like, you'd have, I don't know, if you had 100 megabytes, that was huge or whatever. And now you can have like 10 gigs or more. I mean, just insane amount on just a little thumb drive. There's some kind of scientific principle that the number of, and I'm not gonna get it right, but it's like, basically the microchip, the more they can put on a microchip and the smaller it can be, it like doubles every like 5 years or something. It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. We had to upgrade our business phone, and we were using some one of our old cell phones, whatever it was. And of course, you have to get the special, you have to trade one in. So we grabbed the oldest one we had, right? And the lady, when she was looking at the gig in it, she goes, "Oh, I've never seen that." Some young guy. I said, "Yeah, it's pretty old."
It's like you can't even probably. It's not even. It doesn't have enough memory to download the new operating system in order to.
Right.
Yeah,
they took it. They took it, and it was fine. They said, "No, we'll take it."
I think the original, because my first iPhone was like a 3GS, and I think it was like maybe 16 or 32 gigs. I mean, it was pretty small in comparison.
This was like 8.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure the updates are bigger than that.
Yeah.
Now you can get them. I think mine's like 256, and I'm nowhere near using it. I mean, I know some people get I don't know how you fill up. I mean, I guess you have. I know people have tons of photos and stuff, but
yeah, but there's other ways that you can save all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember I bought a 100 gigabyte iPod, but it was like the big chunky ones, the brick one.
Mhm.
For like, and it was years after it had all been. So it was like 100 something bucks. I bought it used at GameStop, and I was just like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna be able to put. I just put tons of music on there. I still didn't fill it up. Like it's just so much. And then you look like you go back and you can research like the computers that they had to like send man to the moon.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And like how much memory they had, and it's like you've got like more technology in the palm of your hand than what they had to like put a man on the moon in the '60s. So
I know it's crazy how that works. Got to turn the fan on over here.
yeah.
Well,
Now how old were you? Obviously, you were too young to remember the moon landing and all that, but
right.
you were born, right?
I was
Was it
born. I was
69?
born. I was born in '66. I was 3 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have older siblings.
Oh
You
yeah.
have, yeah. So
Yeah.
they probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we have to show you the. We have a. It was given to us by Melinda's parents and Rob actually because I think it was his, but they had went down to the to Houston, I guess, or somewhere, and they were right around that time, and they were monitoring the astronauts' vitals. I think in
Mm.
where they were at, California or wherever they come back in. Melinda, where were they at? California somewhere, and they're monitoring the vitals. I'm asking my offstage hand here. Yeah, and that's so. Anyway, so they were, you had the old printouts on that showed it, and the guy just ripped it off the machine and gave it to, and he wrote which astronaut it was, and
Wow.
gave it to him. So we have that here. It's pretty neat.
It's
Kind of,
crazy to think back then that, I mean, the faith that, I mean, obviously you want to go, but that the astronauts had to have, I mean, it was such a risk. I mean, it's a risk anytime, but I mean, you think about just what was, I mean, I can't imagine like pre-internet, like how do you, you're figuring stuff out. I mean, with calculators,
yeah,
like, I mean, I know they had computers of some sort, but I mean, it's insane. I really hope that we can get back to that kind of spirit of, it's like Mars, it's
hmm
why do we want to go to Mars? Because we're explorers, that's, and
I know.
anytime you can explore God's creation, I can't wait. I hope we send people to Mars in my lifetime. I think we will, but
They could that if they asked for volunteers, they'd just sign me up.
yeah,
Yeah,
you go.
absolutely. We need a test dummy to test this rocket to go up and come back, and sign me up, strap me on. I'm ready to go.
I think the most surreal moment, and of course I haven't experienced, but the most surreal moment must be when anytime you leave the atmosphere and you look back at Earth and you think everyone you know, everywhere you've been, everything you've seen, it's all in that. And there was one of them, maybe it was the movie Apollo 13 or something, where Tom Hanks, where he puts his thumb and he blocks it out.
Hmm.
It's like there's everybody. I don't know. There's something about space exploration that's both like exciting and also a great reminder of just how small we are. You know what I mean? Like
I
anytime you look
know.
at the stars, and it's a good reminder, obviously, that God loves us and everything. Even though we can't, we just live on this little ball floating through space.
I
But
know. Oblivious to everything
yeah,
around us for the most part. So
yeah. They said they found. Do you see? They said they found water on the moon.
I saw that. Yeah,
So they
and
want to.
there's a nice documentary on the Apollo missions.
Yeah.
I don't know which streaming service it's on. I can't remember. It might be Netflix or something. I don't know, but it's
Right.
I don't know if you've seen it, but it's
Mm,
it's really neat.
yeah.
To kind of see behind the scenes what was going on.
The
So,
Apollo 13 is still one of my favorite movies. I mean, what
oh,
a journey, and
yeah,
like to get so close to the moon and not be able to go on it. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
I guess at that point you're like, I just want to get home.
Get home. Do you see the movie The Right Stuff on the Mercury
uh,
astronauts?
uh,
Oh, you got to go find it and watch it.
okay,
It's
I will.
it's on the Mercury 7.
Okay, cool.
So before
Yep,
before Apollo. So
before Apollo.
yeah, it's got like oh gosh, I can't remember the the guy who was in oh golly, he plays John Glenn. Can't remember that guy's name.
Yeah.
He anyway, it's good. It's a good movie. Good movie.
Speaking, yeah, and then Sean Connery passed away. I saw that he was 90.
Yeah,
It's hard to believe.
yeah.
Thought that guy would just live forever.
He was a good one.
He's still James Bond to me. He'll always be Bond.
Me too. Come on, it's not
The
Daniel Craig.
I like Daniel Craig
Oh, I did
better
too.
than
Yeah.
Pierce Brosnan, but he's not the funniest role he ever played though. And I like The Hunt for Red October. I think that's a Clancy novel they made into the
Mhm.
movie. But him playing a Russian submarine captain with a
Yeah.
Scottish brogue. It's like in
That's
the
funny.
'90s. They're like, we don't now they have to be all careful. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So
Nice.
Melinda went and found the DVD. It is so Sam Shepard's in it, Scott
Oh
Glenn,
yeah,
Ed Harris. Yeah. Dennis Quaid's in it.
that's
Nice.
great.
Nice movie.
I
There you
like
go.
Sam Shepard.
If you need
Yeah,
something to do, I have no idea what the rating is on this, but if it has if it says the S word, I apologize.
there you go. It's all reviews are your own, not endorsed by the church.
Yes, that's true.
Last Man on the Moon by Eugene Cernan is a
Yeah.
good. There you go.
Oh,
Sweet.
nice. If you
Well,
have
I'm
a
gonna
DVD player, I'll bring it, but it's probably better to stream it. But it's up to you.
yeah. All right, I'm gonna head out and go teach the people here. I know they're waiting, so I'm gonna turn things over to you and let you rock
Got it.
and roll.
Okay,
All right,
we'll
see
see
you,
you.
Jeff.
All right. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Again, we're going to be in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 through 2. Just a couple verses this morning. Kind of what I did a couple weeks ago. Let me grab this. I didn't really know that I was going to do a series on the senses, but it seems like that's where I'm at. So last week we were doing something, or last couple weeks, I think it was the 18th, we did a series on listening. So sort of how we hear. And this one is going to be, it's going to be on smell, and kind of the title is that we shouldn't stink things up. So, and I'll tell you what that means here in a second. But let me get over here to my lesson. So Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 through 2, it says, "Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love, just as Christ also loved you and gave himself up for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God as a fragrant aroma." So the question is, why would the aroma of a sacrifice be important to God, or why would it be pleasing to God? So on several occasions in Leviticus, I think it's in the teens, 15, 16 different occasions, Leviticus talks about an aroma. It's mentioned as something that is pleasing to the Lord, specifically, um, um, you know, important for what it means. So the importance of a sacrifice as a aroma is not really the smell itself, but it's what the smell represents, and it obviously represents our substitutionary atonement for sin. They offer offerings as an atonement for their sin, and the very first mention of God smelling an aroma of a burnt offering is found in Genesis 8:21. It's where Noah offered a burnt offering of clean animals and birds after leaving the ark, and we are told it was a pleasing aroma to God. And the idea of Noah sacrificing, or Noah's sacrifice, was a propitiation or a satisfaction, if you will, a kind of a smaller word, of God's righteous, requirement. So God was pleased with the sacrifice, and then he gave the promise to never again destroy every living creature with a flood. The New Testament reveals Christ as the final sacrifice for sin, or our ultimate propitiation or satisfaction of sin. So in Ephesians 5:2 again, it says, "Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and a sacrifice to God." Jesus, the Son of God, was the only one who could, provide this eternal, pleasing sacrifice to the Lord, and he alone the Father characterized him, or says of his Son, "You are my Son, whom I love. With you I am well pleased." So Ephesians 5 here is going to remind us that in order for us to have a pleasing smell, so we shouldn't stink things up with our walk, uh, we need to be imitators of God. And the late Dr. Albert Schweitzer, he's a missionary, a doctor, musician, and many other things. He was asked, "What is the best way to raise your children?" He replied, "There's three ways: by example, and by example." So he was certainly right, and by our actions, by our words, by our attitudes in the home, our children learn to follow our footsteps, whether that's good or whether that's bad. And likewise, the Apostle Paul knew the importance of an example. Again, Ephesians 5:1 says, "Be imitators of God. Walk in love, just as Christ also loved you and gave himself up for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God as a fragrant aroma." So being imitators of God and walking in love and trying to become more like Christ is a pleasing aroma to the Lord. And then Paul also says, he told the Corinthians in 1 Corinthians 4:6, he knew the importance of being an example. He said, therefore I exhort you, be imitators of me. Later in that same letter, he says, be imitators of me just as I also am of Christ. He told the Thessalonians in 1:6, you also become imitators of us and of the Lord. Paul is calling us to be imitators of God, to walk in love, as Ephesians 5:1 talks about, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us. And our entire Christian life can be summed up, kind of how we imitated God, and not a fake imitation, not a cheap imitation, an authentic imitation, trying to be more like Christ. We went through a whole series on, do you want to be Christ-like? This is kind of a continuation of that, if you will, just a little bit. But imitating God as his children, walking in love. And Paul is saying, as God's children, we are to imitate him in loving one another just as Christ loved us. So let's walk through a few things along this theme, if we will. So to imitate God, we must know him and know his ways. So we can't imitate someone that we don't know anything about. So to know God, we must understand who he is, and who he is revealed in his word. God revealed himself through his word, through the Bible, through creation, through his written word, all these different things. But it's crucial that we come to know God as he has revealed himself, and not know God as culture has revealed God. So, for example, we hear this all the time. People often say, my God is a God of love, not a God of judgment. Well, the implication here of this statement is that God tolerates sin. And the problem is that is not the God of the Bible. Yes, he is love, 1 John 4:7, but also he is holy, and he disciplines those that he loves. And his children, um, he wants his children to share in his holiness, as Hebrews 12 talks about, over in Exodus as well. I won't go to all those verses because I don't have time, but so we must learn of God and his ways through God's written word to us, and understand who he is based upon his revealed word, and imitate, I want to say, a true model, if you will, of who God is, and not who society thinks he is. Because, yeah, I don't know how many times I've heard in my lifetime, listen, God is a God of love. How could he send anyone to hell, or how could he allow this to happen or that to happen? God is a God of love, but we also live in a sinful world. So we need to make sure that we understand who he is through the revealed word of God. And to know God in his ways, we have to spend time with him. We've kind of touched on this in the past. A child who spends little time with their parents probably are not going to be greatly influenced by them. And I'll say parents or caregiver or step father, mother, grandmother, aunt, uncle, whatever it is, whoever has influence in that particular child's life. If they don't spend time together, they're not going to be as greatly influenced. They're going to be influenced by the things and the people that they spend the most time with. And over in 1 Corinthians, it does talk about bad company will corrupt good morals. So our influence is directly proportional to the time that we spend together. So to know God in his ways, we have to spend time with him. Thankful that everyone is here this morning, spending time studying a little bit about his word, but it just doesn't end here, right? What are you going to do tomorrow morning? What are you going to do Tuesday night? What are you going to do Thursday afternoon? Do you have a plan in place set up today so you'll be able to spend time with God, with Christ over the week? Because if we don't set a plan, I know there's a lot of planners probably here on this listening this morning. If you don't set a plan, it's not going to get done. So what is your plan to spend time with God? So, and again, understanding that influence that God has in our life will only come with is directly proportional to the time that we spend with him. Let me just put it that way. Um, and then Paul says in Philippians 3:8, I count all things to be lost in view of the surpassing value of knowing Christ my Lord. He's kind of saying, if you want God to change you, you have to imitate him in a way that you think like him, act like him, respond um, in ways that will bring honor to God. Respond to the events in our lives, and it's how that we relate to others and how we deal with the trials in our lives. Um, um, matter. And there's no shortcuts of these things. For us to respond in a godlike manner, we have to know um, how God may respond, or how Christ may respond, or we need to be able to put things in perspective. I know I say this a lot of times, but there's a sticky note in the front of my Bible that says, discouragement comes when we allow circumstances to control us. And I've kind of always go back to that and try not to allow the circumstances in my life to control me as a person. I fail more times than I succeed, unfortunately, but I keep trying to go back to that. So to imitate God, we must walk in love, just as Christ also loved and gave himself up for us. And imitating God is comprehensive. That's what I'm trying to say. Um, it includes the way we speak. We're to speak in truth because God is truth. It includes being faithful to our dealings with others, whether in business or personally, because God is a faithful God. We should be faithful. It includes being holy in all our behavior. I didn't say be perfect, because we're not going to be perfect, but strive for holiness because God is holy. And the characteristics that Paul mentions, sums it all up, is love in Ephesians 5:2. Therefore, be imitators of God as beloved children and walk in love. Walking in love, just as Christ also loved us and gave himself up for us. And, to walk in love, we need to understand that, um, a biblical definition of love, and not really a cultural definition of love. Uh, our culture uses the word love for everything. We had pizza last night. I love pizza. So I could say I love pizza. Somebody may say, "Well, I love my dog," or "I love my pet," and it's a great thing. Or say, "Well, I love my wife or my husband or my parents." Well, culture uses the word love across everything, and hopefully there is a distinct difference between the love that I have for my wife and the love that I have for pizza. Um, Especially Peddler's Pizza, which is awesome. But so we can't imitate God in loving one another unless we understand what God's love is. So obviously, the supreme demonstration of God's love is sending His Son to die for us on the cross, and um, John 3:16 proclaims that, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. Paul tells husbands to love your wives as Christ loved the church in Ephesians 5:25. A little farther down, Jesus tells the disciples, "There's no greater love has no one than this, that one lay down his life for his friends." And he told us that we are to love one another even as he loved us in John 13:34. So um, here's kind of a definition that I want to focus on. I've got 5 things, and we'll kind of close this out a little bit on love. But love is a self-sacrificing, caring commitment that shows itself by seeking the highest good of the one loved. Let me say that again. Love is a self-sacrificing, caring commitment that shows itself by seeking the highest good of the one loved. So there's 5 elements of this. So God's love is God's kind of love is a costly love. So God gave His own son, his one and only Son. It cost Him His one and only Son, but Christ willingly laid down his life for the church. It did say that, God didn't like take Christ and say, "You're going to do this." Christ willingly laid his life down for you and I. Um, we seldom will be faced with a situation where we have to actually lay our life down on behalf of someone else. We may one day, and there's saints all across the world that certainly do that. But us here in the U.S., at this time anyway, that's not necessarily something that we have to face every day. But we need to be able to lay aside our selfishness and our pride, perhaps our rights that we think we have in order to practice God's love towards others. Because again, when we love someone, we're seeking the highest good that we can provide to that particular individual. I'm not saying that people don't need to be accountable. I'm not saying that people there's consequences for the things that each and every one of us do. I'm not laying any of that aside. I'm just saying how that we love one another. So sometimes we may have to lay aside our own wants, our own desires, our own selfishness, our own pride in order to show or practice God's love towards others. Second, God's love is a caring love. Just as a father has compassion on his children, so the Lord has compassion on those who fear him in Psalms 103:13. God cares for us more than any earthly father ever could in 1 Peter 5:7. If we think about uh, someone, in the way of, I don't really care what happens to this particular individual, well, then we don't really love them, right? Love cares deeply. And, I know that we have a love for our brother, Bobby, right now as he's going through this particular situation and in this illness. And I know as a church we have a deep seated caring love for him and want the best for him and his family right now. And selfishly, Lord, my prayer, I just say we need to lay down our selfishness, but selfishly, I'm praying healing, healing, healing. That's what we want here. Um, so God's love is a caring love. Do we actually care for the individuals that we come across and God asks us to love on? God's love is a committed love. Christ didn't go to the cross because it felt good. Rather, he was committed to do the will of the Father, and he was committed to save you and I from our sins. Um, our feelings come and go. Uh, Sometimes we feel like doing something. Sometimes we don't feel like doing something. Maybe we have a little bit more energy this morning because, we got an extra hour sleep. But next week we won't have that. So, do we really feel like doing the things that God wants us to do next week? But just realize they come and go. But commitment uh, to doing the things of God is kind of that glue that makes love endure. 1 Corinthians 13:8 says that love never fails, and we need to understand that having a God kind of love is really not dependent on how we're feeling at the time, because we have good days and bad days, and the work of the Lord doesn't stop just because we're having a bad day. So God's love is a committed love. God's love is a conspicuous love, and what I mean by that, it shows itself. In other words, if I say I love you, but I never show you that I love you, well, do I really love you? Love is more than just having nice thoughts. I think if we just think nice things about someone, but there's no evidence of that thought being put into action, um, well, there might be a concern with that. So love is conspicuous. Love shows itself. Love will be evident in the things that we do and the things that we say, in where we put our priorities, and it's more than just a passing thought. And unfortunately, I've been guilty at times, if you will, where it's just a passing thought, but I don't follow up. I need to do fill in the blank, but yet I never actually do. So this is a great reminder for me as well. Is it's more than just having a thought about doing something for someone. It's actually showing that love, whether it comes in words or actions or deeds. God is a sanctifying love. It is committed to seek the highest good of the one loved. Remember, our kind of working definition was love is a self-sacrificing, caring commitment that shows itself by seeking the highest good of the one loved. Um, so it's kind of sanctifying, right? Committed to seeking the highest good of the one loved, because Christ loved the church. He also purposed to sanctify the church, that he might present to himself the church in all her glory, having no spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that she may be holy and blameless in Ephesians 5:27. So this means for us, love sometimes means correction. Love sometimes means holding someone accountable. Love sometimes means pointing out the consequences of maybe contemplated behavior or action. So, but kind of a warning here for us: if we confront someone, and we should do it in a loving manner, again, the reason to do it is to achieve the highest good possible for the one that we want to love. So, if we confront, a professing Christian who is in sin, or someone else, you will very likely be accused of not caring for them, or not loving them, or being unloving or unsympathetic, or whatever the case is. But I would argue and say you're actually showing great love when you have the willingness to confront in a loving way for an individual that is going down a path that shouldn't be going down that particular path, because it's contrary to God's word. It's not what Jeff thinks; it's what God says. Um, but um, I would say that it's unloving to allow someone to go on and sin something that we know and not say anything. We can't control what someone else does, but but we can certainly help guide someone back to the light. They may or may not be willing to listen, but this is probably one of the hardest things to do, is go to a brother and sister in love and say, "Hey, I noticed this, or I heard this, or I see you have a pattern of this." And it's not judgmental, and it's even though they'll think it will be, it's not condescending, or it's not saying, "Hey, look at me," and compared to you, it's none of that. I'm just saying that if you really love someone, we would certainly pull them out of the way of a speeding car, or if a rattlesnake was on the path, we would, warn them about it, right? Or something like that. So why would we not um, talk to the people that we love about some of the behavior that could be devastating to them in their life? So, but that's one of the hard things. But to walk in love is a lifelong process. This is something that it's one step at a time. If we're talking about, the walk that we have, but Paul uses this term, the walk, several times in Ephesians. I love the book of Ephesians. If you haven't read it or sit down and studied it, I would encourage you to do so. It's one of my favorite books. Um, but Paul uses the word walk several times. In chapter 2, verse 2, he mentions how we used to walk in sin. And what I would say, especially when we approach others in love with that last item that I was talking about for correction, don't forget where you and I have come from as we have that conversation. Verse 10 in chapter 2, he says that we are now to walk in the good deeds which God prepared beforehand for us. Ephesians 4 says, walk in a manner worthy of the calling in which we have been called. It's one of my life verses. Ephesians, that verse is 4:17. He says that we should not walk as the Gentiles also walk in the futility of mind. We must walk as children of the light. 5:8. 5:15. We must walk carefully, not as unwise men, but as wise. I think I have a whole lesson on the walk. I need to go find that and bring that up. Maybe I'll do that online. Um, but the walk implies a step by step process. It's a slow but steady, consistent process. If you know anything about me, I always preach, consistency, not having too many highs and too many lows in our life. But if we can just have a consistent walk with the Lord, we will steady, progress in our relationship with Him. And it refers to our entire manner of life. So Paul has already said that we must walk with humility, we must walk with gentleness, patience, showing tolerance for one another in love in chapter 4, verse 2. Um, but the longer that we're a Christian, the longer that we're on this walkabout, I don't know why that came to mind, Australian thing, but on this walkabout, the more your life will be characterized by love, or should be characterized by love. To love others, we should commit ourselves to the glory of the Lord. Jesus went to the cross to glorify the Father in obedience to His will. In John 17, verses 1-5, our main motivation in loving others should be to glorify God. Not if we do that first, then everything else will kind of fall in place. So, and then one last thing I'll say: I've seen some people who love others for the response that they may get back. And I'm gonna tell you, there's not always a positive response when we show love to others. Sometimes there's ungratefulness, sometimes there's apathy, sometimes there's an expectation, sometimes there's just rudeness. All those types of things, right? Um, So sometimes people will not reciprocate that love back to you, or even show you appreciation for the love that you show for them. Um, they may betray you, they may slander you, they may say you're only doing this because it'll make you look good in the community, or whatever the case is, right? You have to be big enough to kind of just understand that. Um, but if you love them, uh, let me put it this way: if you love others for the response that you get back, you'll burn out quickly, and it won't be able to be sustained. But if you love others for the glory of God, it's sustainable. If you love others for the distinct purpose of seeking the highest good for that individual, that we can help them achieve, or do, or have, whatever the case is, you know, the love that we show for others becomes something that is, um, I will say, rewarding, as we're doing it for the glory of God. So, all right. So, come to the end of the time. We'd usually bring somebody back on, but Brother Jimmy has been delayed this morning for some other things, which is fine. So, I'll give a few minutes back to everyone, and remember to please pray for Brother Bobby as he is in the hospital. We just want complete healing there. Just sort of comfort and peace to come over, the family during this time. But we certainly want to pray for healing. So I'd ask you to do that. Maybe just take a few minutes once we close here, and you can do that. And if you're going to join us for the service, we'll see you in a few minutes. Everyone else, have a great day, and we'll see you next week, if not sooner. Take care.